right, here we go. It's not awfully Irish today. What's it called, Paddy?
Well, rather than three peas in a pod, right? We're three beanies in a podcast. How does that sound?
It'll work. So today we're joined by Paddy Slattery, and a bit of a weird backstory with yourself. I think the first time we ever seen you were doing a talk in our school. We were like second years, little youngins, and I think Jared Walsh was there. If you want to check out that episode, um, you gave a really inspirational talk, and it stuck with me till now. And maybe want to do film, but then didn't get the points, so I'm doing media. Thanks to yourself. Um, yeah, dude, you're fucking inspirational guy.
Well, I must have inspired you because when I done that talk, I was dropping F bombs left, right, and center. So I see it stuck with you all those years later. Well, so it was in the tech. We call it the tech, Oaklands Community College in Edenderry.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
you boys were in the same class, were you?
We're in the same year. Don't think we were in the same class for a couple of things. Yeah.
Right. That's mad. Like, so what year was that? 2017, was it?
We said around 2017, 2016 would have been that kind of
Wow.
time. Yeah.
Ah, lads, sure, you're only kids. They're still only kids, for God's sake. Yeah, well, so, well, fair play to he was for even remembering that talk. Was it Blonde Purcell, or no, Blonde Ryan, who invited me in that time? She's a teacher there.
yeah. Oh, I
Yes,
don't
sir.
think she's in that school anymore.
Right. No, because when I was in there, I didn't recognize anyone from the time I went there. But geez, I haven't gone to school there since 94 or 5, maybe. Fado, a long time ago.
Been a minute.
You were barely a twinkle in your parents' eye, even at that stage.
Eh,
You weren't
yeah.
even born, lads. Ah, for God's sake. And here you are now, nearly a better beard than me at this stage.
Come on.
What's in the water out there in Edenderry? Because the water
Fucking lime scale. Fucking lime scale. Dude, the water out here, like, you're making a cup of tea and you're getting a little pincer out to take out all this bits of fucking lime scale. Rough.
So we're three cultures.
We are
Thomas is from Road. You're from
Eden there. Eden
Yeah.
Dara.
Edenderry, Jenny Mac, lads.
And you're
So,
up in Clonbelogue, is it?
Clonbelogue, the city of Clonbelogue, yeah. Lincoln, you'll miss it.
A fine city. But
You know the thing about this, before the highways and byways were built during the Celtic time, Clonbelogue geographically was interestingly positioned because a lot of people used to have to travel through here going from north or south or east to west. So there's a lot of famous people who would have wandered through this village on different stops. I know there's one famous one where, this is going way back. Before I was born, Oliver Cromwell went through here and had his horses shod in the forge down at the bridge. But I remember as a kid in '88, Michael Jackson was touring in Ireland, and he was doing a concert in Cork. But his tour bus came through Clonbelogue, the village. It was all blacked out, and there was a sort of a concave of cars going through. And then rumors spread very quickly that it was actually the Michael Jackson bus that went through the village here. So yeah, that's as close as Michael Jackson got to me.
wow.
Or I got to Michael Jackson, one or the other. But listen, I have to say, and I know that it's a controversial figure now, but I always was a massive Michael Jackson fan. Always right up to the end, but tragic how it all turned out. But anyway, I digress. Sorry.
You hardly seen that documentary they made about him, did you?
No, I don't look at the
Mockumentary, whatever way you want to call it.
No, I don't watch them, to be honest, because I was such a fan of Michael Jackson and I watched one or two documentaries in the early 2000s and realized how badly researched they actually were and how I guess tabloidy they were tailored for particular stories, and I sort of lost faith in them. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he was a human being that had a sort of a tragic outcome. He was probably psychologically damaged from a childhood. So I don't know whether he was innocent or guilty. One thing is for certain, he was a genius artist and a incredibly disturbed human individual. So he's the sort of product of our times, you know. So it's easy for me to sit back and point a finger at Michael Jackson for being a weirdo or a nonce, but when you look at his upbringing, you can see how he would turn out that way. You know what I mean? It's quite tragic.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Big time. I actually had VIP tickets to his concert there in the O2 in London, and then of course he tragically died before he got to do them. So I was kind of sick. I would have got to meet him actually backstage, which would have been cool, but oh well, never happened.
Such is life. I say those tickets are actually worth something now.
Yeah, they were crazy. I won't even say what I had to pay for them, but I was thinking this is probably the last time you'll ever see the man. And of course, as it transpired, it was definitely his day was up. Like, but yeah, to get just there's certain people. I don't do the celebrity thing. I don't follow the trends in the celebrities, but there are people, sort of iconic figures that inspire me, and I was very lucky to get to see Ennio Morricone. You know Morricone, who done the musical scores for the big spaghetti westerns of the 70s, the 60s and 70s, and he scored so many brilliant movies over the last 50 years. And I got to see his last concert in Dublin, and a few months later, then he died. And it's sort of like being in the presence of God. You know what I mean? It's like an extraordinary human. But is there anyone you idolize like that you've ever aspired to go on to see or seen, or other than me now?
You by a second.
We're talking
you
to
beat
you
me
now.
by a second, man. I was literally about to say Paddy Slattery.
There was one guy, we had him on the show way too early, and I regret it every day. Jack Horner. He's doing this massive like science experiment called the Dino Chicken the Dino Chicken Project, and the whole idea is he uses atavistic genes in chickens to bring out more dinosaur-like characteristics in them to see how close we could get.
Really?
So like people can be born with tails. It's like turning that on. The gene that would give you a tail. He does that with a chicken. Well, what would give him a snout rather than a beak? Well,
Wow.
What changes the way their hands work? What gives them like actual like claws? Shit like that. We talked to him, but we were so uneducated about it.
Really?
It was like you watched Jurassic Park and then talked to like a scientist. It was that bad. But like him, that's kind of it for me.
Really? And would you even consider maybe bringing him back on at a later
I
date?
have asked,
Vast.
and I don't think that guy will ever talk to us again.
Really?
Because at the time we were like 18, and we were fucking idiots.
Well, look, you're 18, for God's sake, you're learning.
Yeah.
Still are fucking idiots, but we're
Yeah,
less
but like
fucking idiots.
we've done 200 something episodes. Like you think we figured something out.
Really? 200 episodes? How long has this podcast been going?
Year and a half.
Nearly a year.
Barely, nearly a year and a half.
Wow. So, like, I know you said
260 episodes, 270.
Wow. So what inspired you to be podcasters? I know you kind of mentioned that I might have inspired you in the talk, and I appreciate that. But podcasts, why podcasts?
Well, I don't know if it was really just kind of like podcasting. It was more like it was towards like the very start of COVID, man. And it was us, and it was our other friend as well. There, who's kind of he left. He's gone on to study marine biology in Galway.
He likes fish.
He's just very busy. Big fish fan, He had lobster once, and based
Watch Nemo
around it, But
loves Ellen DeGeneres as Dory.
Finding Dory once, But
Yeah.
But it was more like kind of keeping ourselves entertained, and at the time it was just the three of us, and we were kind of just playing video games all day. And we said, might as well do something kind of productive. And at the start of it, we didn't know what it was. It was more just kind of three friends just chatting mad shite there for 3 hours and putting it up on YouTube, and then turned into more inviting people on the show, getting to chat to cool people,
Nice.
And it's this kind of whirlwind to whatever this is. So welcome.
Still figuring it out.
Well,
Will we ever?
I just had a conversation with John Connors there earlier today, and the way John and Tiernan Williams have set up their podcast, clusterfucks. And what I love about what they're doing, and it's kind of like what you're doing as well, they kind of, it comes together almost organically. It's not like you're coming in like a cynical business going to say, right, we're going to take over the podcast industry and we're going to tick off all the boxes of what needs to be done as a podcast. But what you guys are doing is it's come together in a sort of a natural kind of way, and it'll snowball hopefully and evolve into something. Who knows where you could end up? But I like that idea where it come, is are drawn together for the right reasons. For is are inspired by conversation and maybe interesting people, and people like myself. I love listening to podcasts, and people like us come to podcasts for that reason. We don't want to be sold the next album or the next movie or any of that shit. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, you'd rather have like our Manscaped stuff over here and our Two
yeah,
Buddy stuff
yeah,
over here.
yeah.
You don't want the yeah.
But you know what? I mean, that kind of thing goes hand in hand as well. I mean, you rely on sponsors to finance the product, but if it once it sort of remembers what it is and it doesn't turn into a commercial, a 3-hour commercial, that kind of way. I'll give you an example, right? You know this show on YouTube where the Hot Wings Challenge, where this guy is interviewing these, that started off with the great spirit of people just sitting in front of this guy and eating hot wings, and you see their reaction and they're trying to talk throughout it. And then it became this huge corporate fucking vehicle for celebrities who are flogging their wares, you know what I mean? I can't stand watching it now because it's so fucking rehearsed. It's all now in a big, huge studio in LA, and it's you can see through it a mile away. Who gives a fuck what Taylor fucking Swift is talking about? Honestly, who gives a shit? Bring on real human beings, have a natural conversation, and that's what we like. And that's why Joe Rogan and the likes of Joe Rogan are the most popular voices in the world right now, because it's unfiltered and it's honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I used to watch him, and I kind of stopped because every episode became very similar. But if you go and watch his catalog, holy shit! But like he started off terribly. Like I feel like we might have even started a little bit better than he did, because his first one he didn't know he was recording.
That's true. I seen it. Yeah. I was dipping in from the very beginning of the Joe Rogan podcasts, and it wasn't just Joe, but there was a lot of others at the time, and it's but you look at it now, and I do agree, Dave. Like I don't watch every podcast, but maybe one out of every 7 or 8, there's just a fascinating human being that comes on and just blow your mind for like what's his name, Graham Hancock. You know Graham Hancock, for the archaeologist who's talks about his ayahuasca trips and that kind of stuff. It's fucking mind-blowing stuff.
He thinks there used to be a civilization that got wiped out.
Yeah. I think one of his books is about an America that once existed that has been completely written out of the history books. Fascinating stuff.
I love listening to whenever he has Brian Cox on, man. I'm a big Brian Cox fan. I love listening to him.
Thomas loves Cox. Fair play to him.
Yeah, big, huge.
You know who I cannot stand? He's the most arrogant narcissist I've ever seen. What's his name? That's
DeGrasse Tyson.
Yes, that's the fucking arrogant.
I love that you knew him just from that.
Neil deGrasse Tyson. I've never heard a guy love the sound of his own voice so much. And he always cuts Joe off, and then you can see Joe getting more pissed off as the podcast goes. Cannot stand the guy, because all of his information is secondhand information tailored for a mainstream audience. That's what he is. He's a shill. And you can tell him I said that, lads.
He's a big fan of the podcast, like yourself. So, big shout out, Neil. Paddy might not be a fan, man, but, you keep talking like that, man, neither will I.
I mean, you're closer to that world than we are. Like, have you had to deal with people a bit like Neil?
The which, sorry?
I said you're closer to that world than we are. Have you had to deal with people like Neil before? Like arrogant actors and shit like that?
Narcissists. You do. Well, you know what? In the film industry, I think you do encounter a lot of people who are ego-driven and quite self-centric, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with being motivated, but I cannot stand people who are sort of so selfish and self-aggrandizing that they think everything they say is biblical. You know what I mean? And they're always right, and you're always wrong. I have no time for people like that. They're almost like, yeah, they're like leeches of your energy to just suck you dry and then feck on to the next Egypt that's willing to listen. But you'll get that. Sure, that's life.
Have we had someone like that on before?
They do like suck the life out of you, man.
Oh, Jared Walsh, couldn't stand that guy.
That one guy, Paddy, man, fucking.
We had one guy who just got on and insulted you for 20 minutes and then left.
Yeah, we had a guy, a comedian, and this is when Dara, it was just me and Dara that did the show together, and he came on, man, and I don't know what it was. I made some kind of joke he didn't like, and fucking for the rest of it, man, he was there going the whole time, just absolutely like we're talking about like. It's something like with my girlfriend, and he just goes, "You have a girlfriend?" I'm like,
I hear. Oh,
he's calling Dara Elvis and shit.
Calling Dara is like a wannabe Elvis actor who's never gonna be good enough, and I wonder his parents don't love him. But then he was like, and haha, Thomas is also there. You know, despicable stuff.
Asshole.
Seriously, he's
also he's not funny.
No, he's not funny at all.
Wow.
Don't even know why we had him on. The episode's not even up anymore. We've had a couple of people get on it.
You know what? It's the unfunny comedians that are actually the funny ones. There's nothing more funny than watching a comedian up there absolutely bombing and they're getting heckled out of it. It's just, it's art.
You're a fan of that, are you?
It's cringy. I don't usually like cringe, but just somebody that's arrogant that thinks they're funny, and then you see that they're not quite funny. It's actually funny to watch.
But you know someone exactly like that? It's Jimmy Fallon. Comes off as so Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah.
The talk show guy?
Yeah, the talk show guy. It comes off as like so unfunny, and everything he has is just it's like written down from like even his everything, man, is just so scripted. It feels so unnatural, that show sometimes.
But you know what? You get found out, and the beauty of YouTube, and I hope they never lose the Freedom of Speech Act on YouTube where the comments underneath it. You look at the comments under all the Jimmy Fallon videos, they're fucking hilarious, man. They just call him out for being like, I don't mind Jimmy Fallon if he would just relax and be himself. But this kind of fake laugh and trying to, you know what? Look, we're dogging everyone out here. We might as well keep going where we're at.
Yeah, go on.
You know, one other person, right? I used to always be a fan of Will Smith. Love Will Smith from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air days to his movies. Great movies, Independence Day and iRobot and whatnot. But I can't stand him in interviews because he's got this artificial laugh. And you can tell that there's pain behind those eyes, behind that fake laugh. Like, Will, relax. Be yourself, man. You don't have to put on a performance for everyone. We get it. You're a human being. I can't stand watching his interviews because you're not getting the real human being. You're getting this facade of this happy-go-lucky kind of very politically aware kind of a character. And it's like, fine, fair enough. You're thinking of your audience and your market and all that, but you love to see guys like that with their guard down, not playing up to the cameras and just being themselves. And it goes back to these podcasts. It's why we love podcasts, is because people are unfiltered. They're not really thinking about what, you know, PR would advise them to say. They're just saying what comes to mind.
It's very difficult to get actors to be honest when we have them on.
I'd imagine so, yeah.
We even had one now, and their PR team sat in during the interview. Like,
you're joking me.
Well, like not to shit on them. Like,
no, but like
in case they had anything they wanted taken out or so on, it was there.
Oh,
big
my
enough name.
God. Oh my
but
God.
Yeah, it is pretty weird when they sit in.
They just sat in. They're like muted their mic, didn't have their camera on. You know, podcast ended. They're like, "Is that okay?" And they were like, "Yeah, that's perfect." And left. And it just felt so.
You know what? I'd make allowance for a certain profile of a person. Let's say if they were a very high-profile politician or somebody that they might say something politically inaccurate, and fair enough, you might want to delete it or remove it because it might have different implications. But if you've got an actor who's not an A-lister, that's not world famous, and he's saying, and then they have their PR sitting in trying to censor what might be said, Give me a break, man. What is that about?
Have you had anything like that?
Have I which?
Have you had to deal with stuff like that?
Uh I don't think I'm in the industry long enough to have enough stories to be cynical about it, but I I've definitely run into people, and yeah, I've ran into people who want their agents sitting in on conversations. I'm like, look, we're
Why?
talking about a project here. We're not talking about contracts. Um, yeah, I've no time for that. And to be honest, you try and sniff those people out as early as possible and try and avoid them, because if you're going to get trouble in the development of a project with them, chances are you're going to face a shitstorm of trouble with them in a time when it's too late. You know, you kind of have to roll with the punches at that stage. So one thing I'm fairly okay at this stage is sniffing out the gobsheens, and because I'm not in this industry to pander to the egos, nor am I in this to be rich or famous. I want to enjoy what I do, and this is why I do it. I love doing it. And as soon as you have to work with somebody that are so egocentric, it becomes work, man. And I have no time for that. It's
No time for work.
I don't want to work. No, if I wanted to work, I go and get myself a 9 to 5 job, and it's a steady income. But I don't want to work. I don't feel like this is work for me. It's like I get to play the whole time
Yeah,
and DOS and procrastinate and whatever else. And
it's a great
every
industry.
now and again, I'll get motivated.
Yeah. What's that question on there? Yeah. Are you working on anything at the moment? Actually, skip that one. We'll go back to that in a second. But we're 22 minutes in, and we haven't talked about your backstory. How did you get into film?
Oh my god. Um,
Because
I
it's inspirational. Like this is the reason. Like
really
I love what you do so much.
well, honestly, lads, I got into it out of boredom at one point. When I was 17, I was in a bad car crash and I was paralyzed. I was told I was never going to walk again. And I I just at one particular point in my life, I didn't quite know where I was going to go, what I was going to do, what I was ever going to be capable of doing. My only motivation at that time was to actually walk again. So I was obsessed with trying to figure out different ways of how to heal my body and walk again, despite the fact that the MRI scan said my spinal cord was severed, and that was that. But so in a kind of a weird way, I went on this. Well, first of all, right after I was in the crash at 17, I went to Dunleary Rehabilitation Hospital for a year. And then after that year, there was another maybe year and a half or 2 years of in and out of hospital rehabilitation, all that. So about 3 years of rehabilitation after the crash, right? So if you can imagine like a young brain and 17 years of age, and you're missing out on chasing women and playing football and pool and whatever else with the lads, my imagination, I mean, it was always active. But after the crash, I found that in a kind of weird way, I was kind of say like my body had switched off and my imagination had switched on. I suddenly found that if I even sit there still and just think for a minute or lie in bed going to sleep, my imagination was just more lucid, more colorful and vivid. And it was like, yeah, when you suppress sensations in one area of the body, other sensations become sort of amplified. And that's kind of what happened with my imagination. And so during that 3 years of trying to walk again, I sort of got lost down a rabbit hole of movies and music. And I had a laptop at the time and I'd watch DVDs on it. And I was actually I was just addicted to watching movies and listening to music. And during that time, actually, it's kind of, I don't want to depress your audience now, but when I was figuring out, I was starting to learn more about myself, about who I really was behind the identity, behind the likes and dislikes of who I thought I was. When I went on this sort of quest to try and figure out how to walk again, I was reading books like The Celestian Prophecy, A New Earth by I think that was by Eckhart Tolle, and I was reading what's his name, Pablo Coelho, and all these sort of spiritual teachers. I was reading these books, and it was opening my mind. And I had met somebody who was involved in Reiki and kinesiology, and I was kind of going down this different kind of road that was completely unexpected, trying to figure out how to heal myself. But what I was actually learning was, as I was going back into myself, I was starting to understand the body and the mind and the spirit, and how these three elements of ourselves function, and how if one side is being let down, the other sides of you will suffer. And I realized that the real part of me that needed work at that time wasn't my body, although my body felt broken at the time. It was actually my mind that needed reconfiguring. And so I went down, like I said, I went down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out who I was. And the amazing thing about spirituality, or going on this quest for sort of like self-discovery, is that human beings are like onions, right? We've got all these different layers of ideas and identities and idealisms and whatever else. And the more you get to the core of yourself, the more you peel back these layers and almost illusions of what life is and who you are and what people are. And I got to the core of myself, and I started to find that I was becoming more comfortable and confident in myself. And there was actually, my mantra at the time was who am I? That was the fuel in my engine. I was trying to figure out who I was, because I wanted to be able to discover this power of healing myself and healing my spinal cord so I could walk again. And the funny thing was, lads, I was kind of embarrassed and even ashamed of the fact that I was now what I considered a cripple. I didn't want to see reflections of myself. I didn't want to see a guy in a wheelchair looking back at me. I just didn't want to identify with that, because as far as I was concerned at that age, I didn't have a healthy perspective on what a person with a disability actually was. I just thought I didn't want to be that. But the more I got to know myself, and the more I went on this journey into myself, the more I realized, I was like, hold on there. I was actually starting to believe these kind of lies that society was telling me, that I was useless and that I was a cripple and that I was not good for much, and there's only a certain amount of things I'd be any good for in life. And I started to realize that was a sort of I don't know, I could smell the bullshit in it all. And I just started to, in a weird kind of way, and I say this and I kind of get kind of embarrassed even saying it, but I actually started to fall back in love with who I was. And it took, I don't know, maybe it took about 6 or 7 months, but I eventually had the confidence to sit in front of the mirror and look myself in the eye and actually be proud of the reflection staring back at myself. And the more I got to the confidence to do that, and the more I delved into myself, I started to realize that there was actually nowhere I couldn't go, and there was nothing I couldn't feel in my imagination. And that was contrary to what I was being told by doctors and neurologists. And I actually realized that I could still access the full spectrum of the emotional experience. And not just that, but some of my experiences were actually almost like they were amplified. They were even more intense than they were prior to my crash. So the weird thing was, lads, it actually happened during a time when, in the village here in Clonbelogue, we lost 2 very close friends to us. In fact, one of them was a girl that, she was my first kiss, my first love, if you like. I don't even know if it's love at that age when you're a kid, puppy love or whatever, but we lost this girl to suicide at this particular time in my life, when I was actually starting to rediscover who I was and fall in love with who I was. Yet the whole world was looking at me with sympathy. And it was like, this poor Paddy, oh, God love him, God help him, his life must be shit because he's in a wheelchair. Yet I was feeling fucking happy out. I was like, what are you talking about, man? The experience I'm having here now is as good as I ever had in my life. And then this girl suicides. And not only that, but another friend of mine in my class as a kid, 2 weeks later, suicided in the village. And we were like, just everyone here in the village was stunned. We were devastated. And we all started to ask ourselves some serious questions. And I think the reason I got so angry at that point was, here I was getting all of the sympathy from everybody, yet two young people in the whole of their physical health. On the surface, it looked like they had their whole lives ahead of themselves, and they were gone, dead, finished. That was it. And they fell through the cracks of society because we as a society, we actually judge people on face value. That seems to be the currency in our world today, is that you are judged on your appearance. People will look at you and they will assume that they know what your life is like. Whether you're, I don't know, black, Asian, whatever, whether you're obese, whether you have a disability or whatever, we have these sort of inherent predetermined judgments on who people are, based on the society that we live in. And I was like, fuck that shit. I was like, the world out there that's telling me who I am has no fucking idea who I am. And it was up to me at that point in my life to actually say, hold on there now. If I want to be treated a certain way in my life, it's up to me to stand up for myself. And that's what I did in an ironic, metaphoric kind of way. I stood up for myself. I said, right, I loved film and music. I said, what's the most powerful medium in the world today that could help me convey anything I want to say in my life to other people? Well, media, multimedia, whether it's lyrics, songs, poetry, podcasts, and whatever it is you're doing, you have an opportunity there to influence people, not just here in Ireland, but the far side of this globe instantly. And that's an incredible power to have in this day and age. And you know what? If I'm only going to be on this earth for the next 5 years or the next 55 years, there's an opportunity for me to maybe share some of my own personal experience on this world, and maybe in the process impart a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of education, all the while maybe even entertaining people. And I think media is the way to do that. And in that selfish, ego driven kind of way, I decided I'm going to write songs, I'm going to make movies, and I'm going to inject a little bit of myself into these stories. And then hopefully one day, one person or 100 people or 1 million people might be able to get to see, listen, or hear what I might do, and maybe be entertained or inspired or educated a little bit. And if I can do that, man, my purpose here in life is fulfilled. I feel that I've a real good reason to be alive. And what happened when I was in that crash and I was told I'd never walk again was, I felt that the world had just took all purposes out of my life. And I was just left there sitting thinking, well, where to now? Like, what the fuck is the point in living if you don't have a purpose? And somehow over the next couple of years, weirdly enough, it was through my dedication to actually walking again, I ironically discovered much more than the ability to walk again. I actually said I discovered the ability to fly, because I know even to this day, and which is like 22 or 3 years later, I can't just walk. There's nothing, literally there's nothing I cannot do, and there's nowhere I cannot go within the realms of my imagination. And physically I can go where I want to as well. It just, my way of getting from A to B is a little more unconventional than others. That's the only difference. I am more able in my life than anybody else in my life. There's no one I ever look at and think, fuck, if only I had what they have. I have it all here. Man, I'm a billionaire up here, and I have access to all of the emotions. The full spectrum of emotions are up here. I have a free chemist up here. I've never done drugs in my life. And some people might think, you sure, Paddy? You sure? Because sometimes I wonder what you're smoking. I have never even smoked a cigarette in my life. And I don't need to, because I can just tap into it here, man. I can get high as a fucking kite up here on my own supply. And it's free and it's healthy and it's organic. And yeah. Long story short, lads, that's what got me into filmmaking. This is why I'm here chatting with you, because I believe I have an opportunity to maybe tell a story, and maybe somebody will hear that story and be inspired. And if I can do that, man, I don't care if I never get paid for doing this job. In fact, I very rarely ever get paid for doing this job. I'd happily do it for the rest of my life because it gives me a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose. And I have a reason to get up out of bed in the morning. Happy days. I hope that's answered your question.
It's a lot to take in for a second time. And
well,
yeah, do you understand why I think it's so incredible? Yeah.
So, man, find your purpose. By the sound of things, you lads are finding your purpose, and very early as well, because I don't mean this in a patronizing kind of way, but you're 20 years of age. Man, your life has not even begun yet. It's only the start of it, and I'm excited for you. Actually, I was looking, Jared, you're an archer.
I am.
And a champion archer.
I am. Yeah.
So you're pretty shit hot at what you do.
Yeah. I enjoy it. I enjoy what I do.
Forgive me, Thomas, I didn't snoop on your profiles. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to snoop on it. But if you don't mind me asking, how did you get so good and what inspired you to be an archer?
So my dad started archery with his friend because he used to airsoft, and he turned 40 and said, okay, maybe I can't do airsoft as good as I could. I'll try archery. So himself and the friend go. Dad gets really into things, so he gets the bow, whatever. Eventually the friend kind of drops in and out of archery. So he's like, shit, I have all this gear. Okay, I think I was 13 at the time. I have a 13-year-old at home. Get him out of the house. I just quit doing kickboxing. Or no, I hadn't yet. I was still doing it, but I said, "Oh, we'll give this a go." So we go out, start shooting. Love it. It's a great feeling. At the time, we only shot 3D targets, so targets look like animals. Like it's like fake hunting, because you can't bow hunt in Ireland. So give that a go. Just a while later, the whole family gets involved because you can't have your own thing. No, everyone tried it.
A family that kills deer together stays together.
Yes. So everyone loved it. Everyone got into it, and we just got in with a good crowd in archery. And after doing it for a whole 2 years, we decided to fund ourselves to go to a world championship, and we all came borderline last. I was the only one who came last in my section. 32 guys. I was 32nd. Now I've got time out here. I'm gonna pause the recording. We're gonna be back in a second. And we're back. Got a lovely call there. It was from Thomas's mom. So the story with the coming 32nd out of 32 lads. Great start. I think at the worst, I think my dad being the highest, he was like 100 and something out of 100 or out of 200 guys. So quite good. But like at the time, I'm shooting like a wooden bow, with like really heavy carbon arrows that were designed for compound bows. So like super fast. They're designed to be super fast, and out of a wooden bow, they're fucking slow. So I was fucked from the get go. My arrows would go and then drop like stones. So nothing I could do there. And I was shooting the wrong bow for my category, shit like that. So it's whatever. You keep going along with it. We don't go away for a while. We do a couple Irish championships. I win a few. I've won them since I joined, and then we go off, do one in the UK. Thankfully win. So I'm thinking I'm fucking big shot when I'm sitting there, probably 14 at the time. Like, oh yeah, shot in the UK. We did that a couple of times. We've got 3 of them. Done well in 3. Eventually we just kept going. To the Europeans. Came third in the Europeans, and I fucking fell on top of the world at the time.
Of how many competitors?
My category was 18 guys, if I remember right. But I was very happy with that. Nothing happens for a while. More Irish stuff, more UK stuff. We go and do a world championship off in South Dakota, and I became the world champion that year. So I was delighted. But yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it now because I don't really practice the same. I shoot in college, and I don't know. I might do something when Hawkeye comes out, which is like fairly soon. I might just do a couple archery videos because I
Listen,
have like a fuck ton of stuff.
you don't just rock up to the game, go in there and win a world championship. Like you must have worked your ass off.
I was in the best shape I was ever in. I was fucking jacked, 145 pounds of just shooting. I looked ridiculous. Like my legs were super skinny because you don't use them for archery, but like my back and my fucking arms.
So
Yeah,
you're like Deontay Wilder.
a bit like him. Yeah. Or you ever see McGregor when he like kind of poses, like he puffs out the chest and the arm? I look like that just at 145.
So
Um,
you must have practiced day in, day out.
yeah, a couple hundred arrows a week, or
Wow.
yeah. You just be just under 100 every day. You'd be all right.
So
But
you were obviously motivated.
yeah,
Okay.
I get obsessive with the shit I do, and archery was one of those things. I would change every setting on my bow. You think bows are pretty simple, but no, I change everything to try to get the thing I was going for right. Any advantage I could get. The reason I did so well in the Europeans was because I'm Irish, and it rained like hell.
Really?
And
Wow.
the other guys don't shoot in the rain in mainland Europe. And on the last day, I was in fourth place, and I was losing. I like did incredible the first day, but I was losing third place very fast. And on the last day, I was in fourth place and started to lash. We're in Germany. I think yeah, pretty sure it was Germany, and or Austria. But it fucking pisses rain, and the lads are doing terribly as a result. Like their strings aren't whacked, so like the water's getting into them, fucking them up. Um, and yeah, they're just not used to shooting in the rain. Over here, that's every fucking day, and it worked to my advantage. So
Wow. Well, congratulations, man.
thank you very much.
To experience success at such a young age is probably rare, but it's nice to hear that you've earned it. You didn't just walk in like some freak of nature and just kick ass. I mean, you had to work for every bit of it, you know, that kind of way.
Yeah,
Um,
I
and
I, I have very little natural talent for archery. I'm shit. I want to out of practice. So
I believe that if you can be brilliant at one thing, I think you can be brilliant at most everything else. I think once you've got the intellect and the capacity and the hunger and the drive, I think there's nothing you cannot do if you don't set your mind to it and put in the hours.
yeah,
Um, I think Roy Keane, I'd be a big fan of Roy Keane's now, and he will attest to that as well. He always says that he could have been, you know, he was, in my opinion, Roy Keane, and I'm a Liverpool fan, so it doesn't pain me to say this, but I think Roy Keane during that particular time, the late 90s to the early 2000s, was unplayable. I think he was the greatest midfielder in world football for a long time. I think he's even still underrated in the sort of history books of Manchester United legends. I think Roy Keane is still underrated, and he will say that there's nothing he couldn't put his mind to and be brilliant at if you're determined enough to do it. Because I know this is your podcast now. I feel like I'm turning the mic back on you, but like
yeah.
Thomas, is there anything like that you've been known to do, or anything like, or any aspirations along those lines, or even in this industry?
No, man, I've always talked about like I don't really like the entertainment aspect that exists in Ireland right now. Kind of like they're not doing anything that I'm impressed with, to be honest, man. Like most of our TV shows in Ireland are made by British companies, or they're made by like not that well. What's his name is doing really good stuff. What's his name? The guy Darren Conway came out of
Yeah.
nowhere. He's doing great stuff right now. But
Dude, like
still,
he showed up one day with 80,000 followers and just
yeah,
fucking went with it. Like
Yeah,
you know.
everyone
But
just started seeing this guy out of nowhere.
mm,
Incredible.
yeah. You know, the format's changing and the audience, the access to the audience is changing, and the TVs are trying to catch up with social media.
mm,
So the like of Darren Conway, I think he's brilliant, and
yeah.
his partner there in crime, I can't think of his name now.
Joseph McCookin.
I mean, they play off each other brilliantly. They're just a brilliant comedy duo, but their audience was organically found through the social media, Facebook and Instagram and that. And the TV stations just can't figure out how to get in on that. You know what I mean? And I don't think you can even replicate that. They'll probably, and I hope they do, go on to produce a TV show and make millions, because they deserve to make some money at the back of it. But man, if you can cut straight to your audience directly on your own platforms, happy days. I mean, imagine having a social media platform where there's a few million people following you, and you go on there and post something and there's 300,000 people liking it. What a position of influence. I mean, you can be an arsehole or you can be inspirational or whatever, but you're in such an important position of influence that you've got the power to potentially make somebody's day or break somebody's day. It's an incredible time we're living in, man, where everyone has that access.
I think, what was it Ronaldo did during a press conference? Didn't he like take a bottle of Coke off his desk, and suddenly Coke lost 4 million shares of their company? Like, people sold Coke to fuck.
Yeah,
Something like that, like
4 billion of an 80 billion portfolio, so it was a drop in the ocean for Coke. But
It's a good time to buy when someone does shit like that.
yeah, I mean, you can manipulate that story very easily in order for Coke to probably make another 14 billion back on it. You know what I mean? It's there's no such thing as bad publicity. People are thinking about Coca-Cola. Even if you're on Ronaldo's side, you're thinking subconsciously of Coca-Cola. You work your ass off and you run into a shop and you think, oh, I need something. It's like Darren Brown, the hypnotist. You plant a seed in somebody's brain, they're in the shop, oh, fuck it, I'll get a Coca-Cola. You don't even realize why you bought it, but somewhere subconsciously, that's the power of advertising. So although I love what Ronaldo did there, he probably sold more Coca-Cola than Coca-Cola sold in that year. You know what I mean? It's a weird old industry.
I got big into Darren Brown during lockdown, man. I watched all his stuff. He freaks me out, man. He's so like a mentalist. It's crazy stuff, like
incredible
convincing
stuff,
people to take a bullet for like people they don't know, and then like and like
you know what impresses me about him, and even what's his name? What's the other illusionist? The American guy. He talks. He was on Rogan there about a year ago. You know,
the guy who put the needle through his arm, or got Rogan to put the needle through his arm.
Not David Blaine, is it?
David Blaine.
I think
what I love about him and Darren Brown is the producers of their shows. Man, they're producing brilliant shows, brilliant entertaining shows. They just so happen to be working with really good talent. But I love the Darren Brown shows. That they're really I mean, the power of suggestion, how influential he can be. And I mean, if you study that, I'd imagine there's a lot of people that get into hypnotherapy for all the wrong reasons, because maybe they can't get a date and the only way to get somebody is by hypnotizing them, you know, that kind of way. That wouldn't surprise me. But the power of the mind, man, it's incredibly influential.
Weird stuff.
It absolutely is. We've had a hypnotist on before, and he does hypnotherapy.
Oh yeah.
A lot of it is to stop smoking.
Is he single?
I actually don't know. He's 70 odd. I hope he's not. But yeah, he used to work for a guy, and he used to like do the same thing, but like he would help them stop smoking and then take their cigarettes and their lighter. So he had a collection of cigarettes and lighters, and then he started smoking. So one time he went out to like have a cigarette after telling a guy not to have a cigarette while he's listening to this audio tape about why he shouldn't have a cigarette. And he goes and has a heart attack during the cigarette. He was fine in the end, but he continued smoking.
Fuck.
Yeah. So maybe he needed did the flipping there. Yeah.
Jesus, man. That's mad.
Yeah. Thomas, what were you saying? You're saying you don't like the entertainment industry in Ireland.
Oh yeah. I want to be part of it to change it, man. I wanted to keep up with the times. Like RT, man, I have no idea what they're at. Like
they get a lot of money, but yeah, they're pretty.
I think I've ever watched like what was that show they got back a couple of months and it just showed how fucking out of touch there with reality. It was the thing with Enda Kenny visiting fucking train tracks in Ireland. And I just thought you couldn't get more, let's get this ex-politician nobody fucking likes to go have a look at trains for an hour of your time. And I just thought,
Well, we
you're
don't build trains for another decade.
yeah, fucking. And I just thought, you're so out of touch with it, man. You've actually no fucking idea. That's what I like doing with Darren right now, or say something like, even like, I can't even say any good Irish TV shows. They're all BBC or Channel 4, like Young Offenders or Derry Girl, even what's a cowboy call it, Jared? Like wanky people, normal people.
Well, yeah, normal people.
You know,
Jared Walsh called it wanky people, did he?
No,
no, that's a cowboy
Steve
from
Hardy
the
Books.
Hardy Books.
Yeah,
Oh,
love those guys. Actually, Eddie Durkin put out something today, about getting it back on RT. Yeah, like, and it's done really well. Like, I seen it posted when it came out. It had no views, gave it no like and no thumbs up. And then I go on Instagram later and it has 1,000 views, 1,000 likes, or yeah, 1,000 likes, not 1,000 views. And I hope that fucking keeps going because that's such a good fucking show. Season 5, Hardy
Didn't the
Books.
Hardy Books, did they not start off as a web series on YouTube or something?
First web series to make it to a movie.
There you go, man. It's yeah, see, it's sort of a tectonic shift in how shows get made nowadays. Is that, see, the thing about these TVs like RT, BBC, they're sort of state funded, you know, it's taxpayers' money and that kind of stuff, and they're sort of, their hands are tied in many ways. They're sort of, there's certain stuff that they have to put out, you know what I mean? It's like the news, for example. There's a lot of, they tailor a lot of their content to sort of an older generation, a traditional audience that will go to the TV. They're not your young audience that are more internet centric, TikToky, you know, that kind of thing. So where you see shows like The End of Kenny, I bet you that show, I didn't even see it, but I bet you that show got the numbers, because there'll be a lot of a generational thing where there'll be a lot of people curious as to see what that gobshite is up to and what's he like outside of the realm of politics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not going to appeal to you or me, but I can promise you it's got numbers. Otherwise, they wouldn't have. RT don't commission something unless they already know. They do the market research. They know that it's going to tick the boxes for a certain amount of people, you know.
Have you had any dealings with RT?
I have, yeah, and my limited experience with RT has been positive. But I go into the offices, you meet people, and you realize that they are humans behind the whole sort of shield of what RT is, and it's just not for me. I don't want to see myself ever producing a series for RT type things. I just think my hands would be too tied as to what I can say, because you've got to go through so many sort of political hoops, you know what I mean, before anything you want to say gets filtered so much and tailored to the audience. Nobody ever wants to offend anybody, or RT don't want to be sued by anybody by upsetting anybody else. And I don't think that's the kind of world that I want to be tied into, you know what I mean?
If you don't take risks, you're going nowhere. And they really are like rock bottom at the moment.
Yeah. No, they will put out the content, but they're not going to change the game. They're not going to revolutionize what we're looking at and how we're going to look at it. It's the internet is the place to be for that, or phone devices and that kind of stuff, and even streaming platforms. I know Netflix and Amazon Prime and Apple TV and that, they do get a lot of stick, but to be honest, they're keeping an industry afloat right now. The Netflixes and that, they're employing millions of people now. They're churning out so much content, and to be fair to them, a lot of the original series are actually pretty watchable. I think we have this habit of looking back through rose-tinted glasses and saying, oh, remember all the shows of the 70s and 80s, how great they were and how fearless they were. And actually, no, even back in the day, they were very, they were formulaic, and they were telling us what was trendy at the time, and they weren't pushing any boundaries at all. It's just that we look back in them through romantic eyes and the nostalgic feeling that we would have got from watching some kind of show. But no, like during lockdown, I started to delve into like some of this content on Netflix, for example. And granted, about 90% of it on Netflix is not to my taste, but by God, you can definitely find stuff that you can watch and actually be entertained by. And so I think it's a good time. I think we're like, it's interesting you say, Thomas, you kind of want to be careful with what you get associated with, or what you want to create, because you don't want to go down that road of doing the same old formulaic shite that's, sort of graveyard stuff. But
Wooden spoon,
yeah, it's
packet
like,
potato,
but the good
stuff
thing,
like that.
yeah, I mean,
Fucking
you
mammy
can,
comedy stuff.
Yeah, I
You
hate
ever
that.
see those videos like your Irish mammy comedy, man? It is the lowest form of Irish humor.
It's so fucking lazy, but it'll always get views.
Oh, look at me, Irish mammy didn't turn off the immersion, didn't freeze the,
yeah,
wooden spoon,
Wooden
pack
spoon.
potatoes.
Yeah,
yeah, it's a meme.
Leprechaun. It's just, I
disgraceful.
just can't stand it, man. And if I see anything like it, man, I'll turn it off. And even sometimes, man, I even might block the comedian making it because I'm like, you're not a funny.
He's never
person.
getting a second chance.
Never, and I don't.
Yeah, make
care.
sure that algorithm doesn't start fucking wrecking your head.
Thomas, have you heard of this guy, Darren Conway? I've been blocked.
Yeah.
I blocked him about 6 years ago.
You know what? I'm actually conscious of the fact that I mentioned the name Taylor Swift earlier, and I mentioned that name again now, and I'm going to be hammered by fucking recommendations now on YouTube, on Facebook, and everything else. And I'm going to have to go in and report every one of them, because that's what I do. I report anything that's recommended to me that I really despise. I don't just say not interested. I report it as spam, because I want them to make sure that they never darken my door again. You know what I mean?
Doesn't really hate Taylor Swift. Who's your cup of tea? Say.
But I am proud to say that I cannot tell you the name of any Taylor Swift song or album, and I hope it never changes. And listen, that is that kind of content is good for a particular audience. But it's just not for me, because you can see straight past it. You can see that there's absolutely no. I shouldn't sit here and criticize Taylor Swift. She's made her money. She's world famous.
No. She can take it. She's rich. She can afford the counseling. Go on.
But I think mainstream art like that, and I even feel weird calling it art, mainstream produce like that, you've got a team of writers coming together asking themselves, okay, how can we appeal to the broadest spectrum, the broadest demographic here? And they'll put all these ingredients into a pot. Well, we need to appeal to this demographic, we need to appeal to this gender, we need to appeal to that race, we need to appeal to... And what you end up getting is this watered down version of this mediocre, formulaic garbage that has got no substance at all. But it's just fucking laced with these horrible, superficial jingles that might appeal to the superficial senses. And that's why you've got 13-year-old hormonal kids falling over themselves to buy this shit, because they can relate, man. But for anyone that's long enough in the tooth to realize that there's actually no soul in any of this produce, you realize you're not going to learn anything about yourself. You're not going to be really inspired or motivated by any of that mainstream junk, because that's all it is. It's there to fucking fill a gap on the radio station for 2.5 minutes, and that's that. Move on. And so yeah. Anyway, I've been giving out a lot today, but you know what it is? I'm on an antibiotic and I'm a little bit aggravated, and I just took out the knives and started fucking attacking everybody. Oh man. But listen, we are living, contrary to what everyone says, that we're living in this is probably the best period in the history of entertainment for such a broad spectrum of like sort of content out there for you to find or to fall in love with. And people say, well, they don't create music like they used to. We do create music like we used to. It's just harder to find. You just kind of need to know where you're looking. And the good thing about Spotify, the one good thing about Spotify, I know Spotify fuck artists up and down the country, up and down the world out of money, but it has a good recommendation algorithm where if you like somebody on Spotify, it will recommend another 10 albums similar to that. So you find artists on Spotify that you may never in a million years have found, and you suddenly find yourself listening to some brilliant artist from South Africa. So that kind of thing is good. But we still have the Nina Simones and the Etta Jameses and the Al Greens and the Marvin Gayes. They're still out there creating that content. And they're doing it by the bucket load. It's just a little harder to find it because the corporations that have a monopoly on the industry are not putting it front and center in the limelight. You know what I mean? So that right now our media is, and the music industry got a complete free pass during the whole hashtag Me Too movement. We just look beyond the music industry, but the music industry has been selling sex for the last 30 years. So any of the music artists you see today that are more or less number ones in the charts over the last 5-10 years, it's that sexual appeal and it's that drug appeal and that drink appeal culture. You know what I mean? So it's much harder for artists that are not quote unquote sexy or quote unquote cool or quote unquote rebels that are able to flog their wares in the mainstream because the corporations don't know how to market that stuff. You know what I mean?
Guy out here laying bombs.
Careful now, you can't use the buzzwords like that because they'll tap your phone and suddenly.
Sure, man, they're already tapping our phones. I know.
Oh, who do you think was calling me?
You tell Paddy to keep his
But no,
damn mouth closed. Come on, man.
you are right though. Like some people just get passes and they're not exactly innocent, but who is like?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's people doing it, like not robots. No matter how removed it is, just people. And sometimes they get to hide behind a corporate identity and be a lot more selfish about it. But
yeah,
like you said with RT, like they're just people back there, and they better get RT back. They better get Hardy Bucks on ASAP, or else there'll be riots.
yeah.
You said.
Sorry. I think just people fall into a trap of like familiarity. It's what they know, it's what they do, it's easy, and it maybe provides a steady income and keeps the wolf from the door. And that's why you've got a lot of people that wake up after 50 years of a career and realize that they were just existing. They didn't really get to take the risks that they initially got involved in art to do, because life has its way of sabotaging your dreams. You know what I mean? You fall in love, you get married, you have children, and suddenly you have responsibility. So it's not so easy for people to always be out there breaking the mold. You know what I mean? I kind of feel for anyone that does fall into that trap. And I'm one of the lucky few. I'm single by choice. I don't have a family or kids per se. I have a responsibility to my family in that kind of way, but I also have the freedom to be able to go down a rabbit hole and get lost in a project for 6 months to a year. And I don't have to worry. I'm very lucky where I don't have the council knocking on my door. I don't have the bank looking for a mortgage. So I'm safe in that way. So a lot of people in the industry, a lot of friends of mine, are at the mercy of these responsibilities, and they don't have the freedom to follow their dreams in the way that they initially hoped they would, So I kind of feel bad for people like that. But sorry, you were saying there, Jer?
I was going to ask, because I asked earlier, what are you working on at the moment?
We're working at the minute. I'm actually working on a script for my next feature called Reverse, and it's the toughest motherfucker I have ever encountered. I have never found it so hard to write a script in all my life. And in the last 15 years, I'd say I've written maybe hundreds of short and long scripts. But this one is so close to the bone that I find that I'm confronting emotions, personal emotions in the script, that I find myself feeling almost weak certain times where I have to sit down and sort of research a scene or write out a scene or that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, fuck, this is heavy. I'm not quite sure I'm in the mood to do it today. So it's been a very slow process. So in the midst of writing this script for my next feature, I'm also developing a documentary with a good friend, Ben Forsyth. Ben is a filmmaker, but he's an ex-MMA professional fighter. extraordinary guy. I actually met him on a podcast. He was doing a 8 Corner Coffee like podcast. Brilliant guy, and he talking about everything from sport to ayahuasca, and so we decided down through the last couple of years we've become friends, and we're going to produce a documentary. And the documentary is about me. You know, the way I mentioned earlier on, I've never taken a drug in my life other than tablets that were honest to God, I've never taken a drug that wasn't already prescribed to me by a doctor, right? The only mind-altering substance I've taken in my life is alcohol. But alcohol is sort of so ingrained in our culture that we don't really consider it a mind-altering substance. It's just having the crack. But I've never taken drugs of any sort. And in this documentary, I'm going to go with Ben to a 6-day retreat in the Netherlands, where we're going to do a sort of a psilocybin psychedelic retreat. And I'm going to be subjected to the power of psychedelics and see if I can untangle some of the old trauma that's sitting up here in my mind that's been there for the last 25 years since the car crash. Because I still do, although I consider myself to be one of the most confident and happy and content people I know, I still have a lot of unhealed trauma from that crash. And some of the most predominant emotions I experienced during that crash was grief. I felt like my old life had died. Even all of the friends and the circle and the social lifestyle I had, all of that died that day, and it changed. And I was grieving for that. There was also rejection. A lot of people were rejecting me because of my disability and looking at me differently. There was a sense of shame because I didn't put on my seatbelt and all this. So a lot of these emotions I've sort of lived with over the last 25 years. And it's only through the examination of this new script, Reverse, that I'm working on, I've actually come to the conclusion that I still have a lot of unhealed trauma. And I'm hoping that this psilocybin retreat in the Netherlands will show me a different way to untangle those emotions and heal them and move on from them, because it has had an effect on my life in different kind of subtle kind of ways, even when it comes to relationships. Even recently, I'm not embarrassed to say this, but I was in something with a girl recently, and I found this ugly, insecure monster rise up in me, and I was like, whoa, where is this coming from? And this sense of, am I good enough? And this like sense of imposter syndrome. It's like, when this is a gorgeous looking woman, why would she be, all these kind of weird voices going off in your head thinking, where is this coming from? Because I would consider myself to be as good, if not better, than most people doing what they're doing right now. I still have a lot to learn as a writer and a director, but I firmly believe that I can be as good, if not even better, than some of the great directors of their time. I can say that with no arrogance, that if I put in the time, I can get there if I put, with the, and suddenly I'm in this situation with a woman. I'm like, suddenly I'm fragile again, and I'm weak, and I'm there's a poor me kind of thing. So all of this ugliness rose up, and I was thinking, where did this come from after so long? So we have this amazing ability to be able to stand up and be strong and move forward in our lives. But at the same time, even subconsciously, unbeknownst to us, we carry this baggage, this emotional weight with us. And it steers us in the most subtlest kind of ways. And I've just, during lockdown over the last year and a half or whatever, I've started to look back in at myself, and I started to realize that actually, lads, there's a lot of things I've been doing that have been almost a byproduct of some of the emotional trauma I had as a young lad, So I think I just want to now, at this stage of my life, I want to try and heal that. And I think in this documentary, we're going to go on this mad psychedelic journey to see if I can heal myself. And if not, c'est la vie. But if I can, then brilliant. Psychedelics is the future for me.
Well,
So
I
yeah,
hope it goes well for you.
thanks, man. Um, one way or another, man, the documentary might be shite, but it'll be a trip, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, that could be like an awful bad trip, or literally, or it could be
But you know what?
okay. Could
I
be
think
good.
these substances have a way of, depending on how you're feeling. You ever see where some people can drink and get drunk and be happy, and some people can get drunk and be absolute aggravating, angry sons of bitches. And I think sometimes a substance like that can maybe bring out what's sitting in there dormant that you don't really express in a way that you should healthily. So I don't think it's, if I take a mushroom and I go on this psychedelic trip, I don't think it's going to unearth any anger in me. I don't think I have any anger in me. But I have certainly got some sadness in me, So I want to bring that out and sit face to face with it and ask it some questions and maybe hopefully let it move on from me.
I'd love to talk to you again afterwards.
Man, let's do it. Yeah, after this documentary, we'll be promoting it. So we'll come on and use your show as a commercial, an hour and a half commercial for our documentary.
Yeah, we'll have a wee chat about it. But anyway, we're a while in now. I can see the lights getting dark in everyone's rooms, so it's time to head on, lads. But Paddy, I want to say thank you so much for getting on. It's a pleasure actually finally talking to you.
Lads, it's an honor, and I have no idea what we even talked about, but hopefully there's something in there that you can use.
The whole thing stays in. That's one thing I'm very happy with. We keep everything. But again, thank you so much. We talked about fucking everything. I'm frozen right now, so it's great crack.
The timing in this is so good because someone has just come into the studio here. So it must be time to go. But lads, keep up the great work. It's great to see you doing so well.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Never mind my frozen face. I'm so delighted I haven't moved. Oh, there we go. But yeah, thanks, man.
Orlando, before you go, come in here. I just want to introduce you to a brilliant singer and songwriter. This is my nephew, David. This is a podcast here we're recording. Oh, wow. So when are you putting up the podcast, lads?
Oh, this won't be up for about a week.
We'll let you know. We'll text you.
Well, there you go. And this guy does a brilliant version of Damien Dempsey's. What was it? It's All Good.
It's All Good. Yeah, it was in Paddy's film.
Yeah. We'll have to keep an eye on you
on my Instagram page. Sure.
There you go.
There you go. Just promote the nephew.
There you go. We'll keep an eye on him. See what he's at. Maybe we'll have him on.
All right, lads. Great chatting with you.
Have a good one.
You too, right?
Thanks very much. All right, now just do a quick little thing for the patrons. Your fucking sound. He's your fucking sound. Patrons, thanks a million for supporting us. I hope you enjoyed that wee chat with Paddy. Definitely eye-opening. Definitely eye-opening. Haven't seen that guy when we were like 15, and then having spoken to him now. It's crazy. I actually can't believe we had that conversation. But yeah, thanks a million for supporting us. And if you want to join our patrons and get access to episodes early, the link is below. And if you don't do that, you don't have to fucking send some dosh our way, because we don't expect that. But what we do expect and we demand is an old follow on the Instagram. That's where the crack is. That's where we're having fun. We're doing a lot of shit on Instagram. And I'd hate for you to miss it out. So take it handy. Good luck and bye-bye. We love you all.